of supply chain management. Now, did I? If that's the only takeaway. So what were the takeaways in terms of supply chain management? What is supply chain management and why is it applicable to your work environment? I want you to apply it to your work environment because then other people are going to learn as well. Anybody? Lindy, were you going to say something?
Professor, are you talking to me?
Yeah, you come off mute. I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, yeah. Later. I'm still gathering some information.
Can I ask maybe a different question while we wait for that?
Yes.
Sure.
So on the the lab simulation, I thought that was a pretty interesting scenario. And throughout the calendar year, the different suppliers had reasons for either missing delivery dates or falling behind, whatever it is, natural disasters, labor, workforce, union issues, etc. Do you have strategy or talk or ideas for us on how to handle that? Like, I found that after a while, I was kind of initially canceling orders when that first happened, and then I was getting maybe trigger happy, and then after I just stopped and kind of let things happen on its own organically, most of the manufacturers eventually caught up. Can you just talk a little bit about like a real life application of that?
Yeah. So didn't we talk about the beer game last week? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So the beer game. So the beer game explains exactly what you're talking about. So if you go on the Google or if you go on the YouTube and you type in the beer game, there are a number of different videos that explain the beer game. So the beer game is a game that was developed by MIT like 20 years ago, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is where you get put in groups. So we talked about the components of supply chain management. And we talk about where we're going to start with a supplier, we're going to have a manufacturer, you're going to have a distributor, you're going to have a retailer, and you're going to have a customer, right? So typically when we play the beer game, I do this in all my graduate program, in most of my face-to-face graduate programs. So we'll put people in groups. So there's going to be 5 groups, right? So we only do 10 rounds, right? So week 1, we say, okay, customer group, write down how many cases of beer you want. Okay. Then you say, okay, retailer, guess how many cases of beer that customer wants. Then you say, distributor, guess how many cases of beer the retailer wants. Then you say, manufacturer, guess how many cases of beer the distributor wants. And then you say, supplier, guess how many pounds of barley and hops you think the manufacturer needs. Right? So now, once everyone's put in all their information, then the customer said, then you say, okay, customer, how many cases of beer you want? I wanted 50 cases. Then the retailer says, holy crap, I got 150 cases. So now I have 100 cases of excess inventory, right? Now the distributor says, oh, dang, hypothetically, I have 100. I think I have 100 cases of excess inventory, right? Because the customer told me what he wanted. So now I say, man, I'm screwed. But now the manufacturer says, oh crap, we only produce 25 cases. So now everybody's messed up, right? So then the manufacturer says how many cases they manufactured, and then the supplier says how many pounds of barley and hops they send over, right? So now from week 1, everybody's messed up. And then you go to week 2, and now everybody's trying to catch up, or they're trying to reduce their inventory levels. Week 3, you're even more messed up. So now you're trying to increase your inventory so you can get that excess inventory. Now in week 4, now I have too much inventory. Now I'm trying to reduce it down. And then in week 5, the customer beefs up their demand because of Super Bowl Sunday, for example, and everybody's messed up again. So you have these peaks and valleys, And that's where that term, the bullwhip effect, comes in, right? So that's that's essentially what you see in that game, right? In that simulation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the bullwhip effect, that first round, you're pretty much just like in the simulation, you're guessing what those numbers are going to be, right?
That's
So
right.
once you go through those 10 rounds, then you're going to have a number of people that are getting dinged because they're stocking out. They're getting dinged because they don't have the inventory that the customer wants. But then you have to make a determination of, well, I can get dinged this much for not having it, but I also have to pay this much if I hold excess inventory, right? So you do those calculations and see what's going to lead to the most profitability, right? So that's where that supply chain strategy comes into play. Now, that's that first scenario. And you say, oh yeah, I'm amazing. Okay, I have this plan. I'm going to have a strategy of holding excess inventory. Yes, I'm going to pay additional holding costs. Yes, if I'm in food and beverage industry, I'm going to have some expiration. But I'm the most profitable out of this whole class, right? But now, the second iteration, you say, okay, Mr. Customer, you tell the retailer how many cases of beer you want. Retailer, you tell the distributor how many cases of beer you want. Retailer or distributor, you tell the manufacturer how many cases of beer you want. Manufacturer, you tell the supplier how many pounds of barley and hops you need. Now, because everyone is being transparent, everyone is communicating, everyone is collaborating, that goes from the demand goes from this to this.
Got it.
Right? So that's essentially what we mean by the bullwhip effect and the beer game. And last March, I was joking around and I said, we're gonna see the Corona game in like the next 2 years. You know, and we're gonna be using toilet paper as an example. Everyone's gonna be able to relate to that one.
Yeah.
You know, so does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks for the walking through that for me.
Yeah. But again, that's a simple scenario, but you made an excellent point in that you also have to consider, you know, broken pallets. You have to consider supply chain disruptions like a pandemic, like the Suez Canal debacle. Right? So you have those things where yes, we can increase the collaboration and communication to mitigate the risk, to reduce our inventory, but we're always going to have disruptions where we have to, and that's why we have safety stock. That's why we have that buffer to mitigate against those uncertainties.
Yeah, like contingency amount.
Right. So I get my classes mixed up. So, you know, I often bring up that, you know, in last March, these analysts who don't work in the industry, who don't know what the heck they're talking about, they said that, oh, well, our supplier's too lean. He's like, we have all these suppliers stocking out of PPE. We have all these suppliers stocking out of toilet tissue. No organization is going to hold pandemic inventory, right? You are not going to have the safety stock levels that you would have gotten wiped out last March.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
You were going to get wiped out, right? And again, you've heard the term black swan event. Yes, it was a black swan event, but this event's going to happen again.
Right.
It's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Right. Will it be amplified? If people in decision, not just our leader back then, if all of the leaders in all these countries, if they listen to the scientists who have the data, we wouldn't have had this problem.
Right.
Again, it's not just the US. It was other countries as well.
Right.
And one thing I always want to point out, because I do a lot of stuff on sustainability, I think I've mentioned that. the most sustainable company, the companies, the countries, they do operate. Some do operate as companies. The countries that did the best during the pandemic were led by women, right?
Yep.
Because they listen, because they don't have pride, right? They listen to the scientists who know what they're talking about, right? So I think the big lessons learned through this pandemic is to trust the doggone system. This is what these people do.
Right.
If they said this pandemic was spreading, why don't you doggone listen to them and put those mitigation strategies in place? Because our president was saying that, oh, this is not, nothing's wrong. The organizations listened, so they didn't build up their inventory. Right? They think everything was going to be back to normal in a couple months, couple weeks. We're a year and 2 months into this thing, and now we have the Suez Canal is about to hit us. We're not feeling it now, but we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it at the vice president of LEOS, Joe Henwood, said we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it at the end of May. Because those safety stocks that I mentioned, they're going to be gone. They're going to be wiped out again, right? So that's essentially where, and yeah, you'll know. I think you know me from the decision making class, right? I'll get on a tangent from one question, but hopefully it helps and hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, that simulation is very important. That's the reasoning for that simulation. And it all, kind of stems from this concept of the beer game that we always talk about in supply chain management.
Right. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? Or you're afraid for a 20-minute discussion explanation?
Professor, this is Lindy.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much for helping me get into the simulation last week. I think I went to the wrong account or website. So in anticipating, my question is that in anticipating the retail, for instance, because I do retail on the side, and for the inventory for this upcoming event that you just mentioned, do you think it's going to hit hard the U.S. as a result of the Suez Canal? And as a retail owner, how do we anticipate that? Especially because I deal directly with fabrics. And then the inventory, the stocks that I'm keeping right now is really low, but this is because of what I provided is customized. It's not fully retail, but customized, but I'm going to the retail pretty soon, but looking at all the events that's going on right now in the retail stores, a lot of them actually closed down and moved to the online. So as a small business, how should we anticipate with all this in terms of the inventory? Should we actually pile up, or like you said, have a buffer, a safety stock level in our inventory for the time being, or let this, I'll just wait a while until the Suez Canal event is passing?
That's an amazing question. And you're in luck, so I don't only charge for this type of information. Just kidding. But no, really I do. But anyway, but the first question I'm going to ask is one, what is your supplier base? If your supplier base it has to come through the Suez Canal, you're going to get impacted by it. Now, two, because you do not have inventory that's going to expire, like, perish, I should say, because fashion does expire, right?
Correct. That's my next question, actually.
You have seasons. So that's another thing. Well, I would ask the question of, what is your product makeup? And that, if you stock up on the inventory because you stocked up, are you going to have to write off that inventory? Is it going to be difficult to sell that inventory because it's going to be out of season, if you will? Right?
Yes. Part of it. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So And then also you have to, and again, like these things we're walking through now, this is what you do for like for any kind of decision. This is not just supply chain, so you also have to say, I always do a chart of options in anything I do. All right, what's the risk of me not loading up on inventory? What's the risk of me loading up on inventory? The risk of me loading up on inventory is that I'm not going to be able to sell it. Right? Am I going to be able to sell it in the aftermarket or things like that? I've had a few conversations with the I'm not sure how much she pays, but I've had a few conversations with the Queen of Raw, because she developed a blockchain for the fashion industry. I can't stay away with it. I can't stay away from it. But so she actually, so any kind of like bolts. So let's say, for example, the bolts are out of season, right?
Right.
She actually buys it from those retailers, and she makes garments out of it, or she resells it. So she resells dead stock. She made a business out of reselling dead stock, right? So she's won like millions of dollars just in pitches, like in pitch competitions. She like if you look up, so Stephanie Benedetto. Like I said, I know I go off, but I'm saying this stuff I'm talking about is very beneficial, and I think, in my opinion, is transferable. So Stephanie Benedetto. What is going on? Oh, that's not it. That's request an artificial intelligence. My computer is really about to crash on me. It's crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to say, like, so she won this rework competition with Sean Combs and Ashton Kutcher, talking about her product. I mean, she's run tons of money on pitch competitions. But again, the whole thing is, that's what she does. So you'll get organizations. So she'll get like Louis Vuitton, like bolts from Louis Vuitton, bolts from Burberry, all the big names in New York City, and then she'll resell them, or she'll put them up on her thing is, she wants to create sustainable fabrics to keep these fabrics out of the landfills. Right. So to answer your question, I didn't answer your question, but it brought up again at that point. But to answer your question, you're going to have to make a decision on, what's going to be the risk. What's going to be the risk of loading up on the inventory if I don't need it, if I don't sell it? But then what's going to be the risk if I don't load up on it?
Hi, Professor. Sorry to cut you off. There are some people in the waiting room waiting to get in.
Oh boy, so sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you. All right, Lindy. So what do you think about that?
It's interesting because I'm in the middle of converting the customized to retail, so I need to anticipate any risk that might come in my way. So thank you so much, Professor. If I have any questions, can I just shoot you an email?
Yeah, shoot me an email or just text me. We'll hop on the phone. I love talking about this stuff.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyone else to discuss what we talked about last week?
Can we connect with you through Clubhouse?
Excuse me?
Can we connect with you through Clubhouse to participate in the rooms that you're hosting?
Yes. So I don't host a Poke House room, but I hadn't been there in a while because I've been so doggone busy. But yeah, so I normally do sustainable fashion rooms on Thursdays and Sundays. Like I said, I hadn't been there in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so it's just at Justin Golston on Clubhouse.
Okay.
Thank you.
I used to be on there 3 times a week. I had to put myself in the Clubhouse jail, to be honest. Right. I had to go to Clubhouse rehab. I was on Clubhouse 20 hours straight the second week I was on there. It was bad. It was bad. I was an addict. It's bad. But I tell you what, I will tell you what. I have connected with my partner for the blockchain company. I've connected with two individuals I'm working with in the blockchain space. I'm an advisor for two companies that heard me speak on these Clubhouse rooms. So Clubhouse is the most amazing tool to collaborate from a business perspective. It's the most amazing tool to learn, right? So, like, for example, whenever blockchain, whenever crypto was going crazy, you could just go into, they had Clubhouse rooms just to teach beginners about crypto. And they were like, if you know absolutely nothing about crypto, we're starting from bare bones, right? They said if anyone wants to make fun of somebody, he said, I'm kicking you out of this room, and you will never come back. Right? It's a safe space, right? It's inclusive, and that's why I love it, right? So yeah, I've had racists come on there. They're off a Clubhouse. You get trolls. And the more Clubhouse opens up, you're going to get trolls. But the thing about Clubhouse is that not only do those trolls get kicked out, the people who invited them get kicked out, right? So that's why I love that platform. I think it got valued at like 3 billion, something crazy like that within like the first 4 months. It's nuts. So it's an amazing tool. I'm a big Grant Cardone fan. The guy from Sharp, Mr. Wonderful, he's been in there. Damon John's in the Clubhouse, and although Grant Cardone raised I think 108 million or something on Clubhouse, through Instagram and things like that, he's in there giving free knowledge, and it's good. It's good stuff, right? So you have these celebrities in here that charge tens of thousands of dollars to attend their conference, but they're giving you information for free, right? Yes, it's marketing to get you to pay for their programs, but the free stuff they're giving is good, right? So if you want to start up a company, you can go into a Grant Cardone room, you can go into a Ty Lopez room, you can go into a Mr. Wonderful room, and you can get stuff for free. And Clubhouse, like I said, I'll show up about Clubhouse, but I can't say enough good things about it.
How do you get access to that? Is it like a invite share? Or?
Yeah, it's an invite. Who is it? All right. What's your phone number? I'll send you one right now.
I'll email it to you.
Yeah, email it to me. Anyone else? Let me see. I'm gonna let you know how many I have left right now. I'll let you know. Right, I got 8. Oh my gosh.
I have some invites left too. If anyone's
anyone
looking.
that has invite, I got 5 invites.
Same
Can
here.
I get in, Professor? Can I get in too?
Yeah, Lindy, just shoot me an email with your phone number, and I will send you an invite.
Okay, Anusha, thank you so
I
much.
got 5 left. I got 5 left. If anyone else has invites, just let your peers know. I'm telling you, that it's so beneficial. I'm like close to the point where I'm gonna make it an assignment where you have to get on Clubhouse. Let's do this. It's that much value. It provides that much value, right? So it's almost synonymous with LinkedIn. Like my undergrads, I make undergrads create LinkedIn profiles as an assignment. They must create a LinkedIn profile. Clubhouse is that powerful. It's the same, right? So that was a huge call out. That was huge. Anyone else? Any other takeaways from last week? Y'all just don't want to be on the phone on here for 2 hours this week.
I'll speak up. I just think a big takeaway for me is like being a self-starting business owner. I've just grabbed so many things from so many different areas.
What industry is it? What business are you in?
Beauty and wellness.
Okay.
So I blend hair, makeup, massage, and yoga for brides to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so looking at this course, I thought was going to be, about bigger companies, which it is, but it's so nice because I can use it to implement different strategies and planning and just, the bare bones that I can take from my business and share with others, in all ranges of businesses.
All right, Okay, keep going.
I was gonna say, and then you throw in the tech. I love like optimizing. You know, I'm using like an CRM and everything already. So all the tech stuff, like I'm
Yeah.
geeking out on too.
Oh, so yeah. So I just published something on so two things. So on LinkedIn, oh yeah, so here, do I have chat? Do I have no? Let me see here. Do I have? Yeah, I do have chat. Anyone that doggone it? All right, so someone. All right, I got Corinne. All right, so on Friday, no, Saturday. Is it Saturday? So Saturday, 28th, 24th. Yeah, 24th at 8 Eastern time. Oh, that's going to be a little early for you all. So I'm actually delivering a keynote. I'm delivering a keynote for the Sustainable Supply Chain Pledge Day. There's people from all over the world that's going to be talking about that. I am. So here's the link for that to enroll. And then the week after, I'm doing a panel discussion. I'm doing a panel discussion with a number of other professors from MIT. I think I talked about that last week. But in terms of, so whenever you said tech, so come on, why that? Well, there's another one. So also, I just posted this article. I don't know why this thing is not coming up.
Professor, there's another person trying to get into the class.
Yeah, I just got Corinne.
Oh,
Corinne? Yeah, I like her in.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, if you see somebody or someone text you, let me know because my thing's on this screen. So I just posted this for those who are interested in. I know everybody's not interested in blockchain, but I am. I'm crazy about it. So I just posted a Medium article where I interviewed the founder of a big, probably one of the most reviewed, probably one of the main reviewed blockchain projects going on right now on Medium. And then also, you can't see that. So I wrote a book 2 years ago on critical success factors in ERP. It just got put in the Penn State Library. So the reason why I say this is that if you want a copy, let me know. I'll send it to you for free. All right. So took me a few times to get there, but there you go. I'll send it to you. So yeah, anything about tech, that's what I'm all about. And I mean, it's the tech's gonna be. I think I validated my point last week where I went off for a good hour on tech and blockchain. Anything else in terms of takeaways?
I think for me, the biggest thing was that it was like really good to pay attention to planning in the future from the beginning. So without really expecting like what is going to happen, I think like, I don't know, maybe I'm like used to planning things like this in media, but just like thinking ahead of time, like, okay, this is probably gonna happen. You know, somebody's gonna cancel an order, things are gonna come in late for the simulation. That I started planning ahead. So instead of looking at deliveries coming in right on time, I would plan like, okay, let's give them a couple extra weeks. That way, that inventory would kind of carry me over to the next quarter from the beginning, rather than having like that issue later of, oh, I didn't plan, you know, advance enough, or I didn't get enough for production.
Right.
But just being able to anticipate that from the start, I don't know if that for me came from like what I do or like for work, or it was just kind of, I don't know, it occurred to me from the start, so it was great. I realized it was helpful.
You said you're in marketing and media?
Cancellations.
What industry are you in?
I work in media. I work in entertainment, but in the media space, so advertising.
So you're saying that within your industry, you're really not that proactive in things?
No, I mean the exact opposite, because we have to anticipate for example, when we have a TV buy. So if we're putting ads on TV, there is a great possibility that it's not going to deliver fully because the audiences are not there. So we plan ahead and we already start like building a sort of cushion to say, hey, it's probably not gonna deliver at 100%. So what can we do to get us closer to that 100%? So we plan 110%, 120%, and it still only delivers at like 98%, 95%. So I think that kind of built in from what I do helped me like anticipate that from the start in the simulation and know that it would happen there too, you know, that something might go wrong.
But media is kind of different, but you make a good point in that, like, you could be on a cutting edge from a media perspective and put in all this money, you know, and say and just light the world on fire, but then it could be an ultimate miss, right? It could be before its time. Perfect example. You know what I'm about to say. When IBM was pumping all this money in blockchain, IBM blockchain, they had a Super Bowl commercial on IBM blockchain, right? But it didn't pick up. So now IBM's back. They scaled. I just had a call at IBM last Friday. So now they scaled back, and now they're back in the shadows, just waiting. Right? They're continuing to build out their product, but they scaled back on their marketing.
I mean, I can say that the spending on that on the Super Bowl was a really bad investment just from an audience perspective.
Good point.
That whoever advised them to do that, I would probably, I don't know that I would go as far as like fire this media manager, but I would definitely write them up or something because that is just bad media planning.
Yeah. I mean, but that's an excellent point. And yeah, because those people that are going to invest in IBM blockchain are the people that are running commercials with IBM blockchain, right? So yeah, that's an excellent point. And yeah, those investment dollars should have went elsewhere. But I was just trying to make the point of, you know, marketing's a little bit different, where, you know, you got to kind of. So I just brought this up the other week. Those organizations that are on the cutting edge, Tesla, Facebook, IG, Twitter, those huge companies that were somewhat before their time, how many commercials did you see before they got huge?
It was
Zero.
all word of mouth. It was all word of mouth from the start for a lot of them. Exactly.
Right. So from a marketing perspective, it's like the marketing, the commercials, the things like this. Yes, I would say the marketing has now transitioned to social media. It's transitioned to Facebook. It's transitioning to IG. It's transitioned to YouTube. Right. So that's where that market is. And now those algorithms are more focused. The AI algorithms are more focused. Right. So you say, okay, what's this have to do with supply chain? It has everything to do with supply chain. Because if the marketing hits the correct market, now your supply chain's exploded. Because the demand's there. If you're a product company, right? But if you're a service company, we're going to talk about service this week once we eventually get to it. If you're a service company, the planning and the project management we talk about in this class, that's going to explode too. Right? So to your point, I mean, that's an excellent point. That makes me think differently in that, you know, from a planning perspective, you know, different industries will have different approaches outside of what we learn here. But again, I want you to kind of have yourself to kind of look and say, okay, how is this applicable to my industry? How is it going to be different? Right. So I want to just pause really quick and I want to ask you all. So I've had some classes, like I said, and a number of you, you know, you've had me before. A number of you have had me before, and this is how I do my discussions, right? Now, I had a discussion with Susan where Susan said, well, some students say that, they would want a more structured discussion where they want a PowerPoint. They want me to go through a PowerPoint from the week for an hour. Right? And we don't have these discussions on how it's applicable to your roles. Right? That's how I deliver. Right? So my question to you is, what do you want? Do you want discussions like this? As long as it is pertained, like I said, I'm gonna try my best to stay away from technology. I'm gonna try my best. No promises. I'm gonna try my best. Do you want those discussions that are on the topic, or do you want that structured PowerPoint presentation? I got one ready. I got one ready on forecasting.
Hey, Professor, I actually prefer the PowerPoints because then it teaches me theory that I can then apply in the real world, like in my workplace. Like I had to do forecasting for 2 years today. And I mean, I would take a fresh perspective in the theoretical realm. I think it would help me beneficially.
Okay.
To me, it's a little different because this discussions is rare and that something is missing. I would be okay with if you shared a PowerPoint with us and we would review it on our time and come up with you if you have any question and still continue having these discussions, because that's something that you can't really get easily.
Okay. We'll see anyone else's thoughts. Anyone else?
I found it interesting that, and I guess it makes sense that the way that I did it, by mid-November, I had no more demand. This was my second run, by the way. On the first run, I went over budget a little bit and I had a horrible customer service score. But by the second time, I had a feel for exactly what we were doing. But I noticed that in November, that's it. All my customers were satisfied. And I was able to do it, which is
everybody had what they needed.
Everybody had what they needed, which then made sense because it was, processing chips. So it's like, hey, they already know how many they're going to sell. We're only going to sell so many. Whereas if it was something like perishable, like food or beer, I would have had to be more precise and not over delivering at certain points and making sure that I was hitting it right on the mark. So, because I used to do retail management for Target for about 3 years, and I was part of the team that worked with basically inventory and forecasting. So it was way more complicated then, and I wasn't even deep into it. But figuring out, okay, we can have excess toilet paper, but it takes up too much space. We can't have any excess food because we're already not making any money on it. So, those type of calculations could get very complicated in a real world scenario. Whereas I found this scenario to be a little interesting in the fact that, yes, a customer will be completely happy, which I've never thought was ever possible. So,
yeah. And that, so you have all these considerations that you have to make, like and so just imagine how complicated supply chain planning is going to be for a Walmart. Just think of how complicated Amazon. How in the heck can Amazon give me every single thing from the website the next day? Yes, they have distribution centers in every single state, but still, that distribution center is not going to have every single product that Amazon has on the website.
Super fast.
The next day, sometimes the same day.
If you do it early, yes.
Right, sometimes the same day. But so you have these considerations, and it's like supply chain management is so complex. I got an undergrad and a master's in supply chain, and I'm still learning every single day. So and another thing is, because the technology is moving so quickly, and like I said, we can talk about demand sensing this week. So demand sensing is one of these forecasting models. It's more of an advanced model where you're going to integrate artificial intelligence and machine learning to essentially pull in data from IG, Facebook, YouTube, things like that. And you can integrate that information into your forecasts, right? So I just started working with one organization called Zeotag. Oh, matter of fact, I got hooked up with the individual on Clubhouse. So he was like, "Oh, Dr. Golson, we're working on this one project. So I need to do a lot of research. Like, come check out this project and tell me what you think." Right. So what this project is you can upload content from YouTube. I think they can't do podcasts now. They can't do IG, but primarily YouTube. And what this does is it uses artificial intelligence to essentially create a transcript, right? So it creates a transcript from artificial intelligence. Yes, you can say, well, YouTube already does this. No, wait, there's more. So they use AI to create the transcript for this. But then what's better is that based on that algorithm, it creates pretty much a Cliff Notes version of a YouTube video, right? So now with this tool, before we couldn't pull data from YouTube into a demand sensing model. But with this, now we can pull stuff. Now we can pull things from certain articles in this demand sensing tool to see what people are talking about. And we can feed that into our forecasting tools. So the point I'm trying to make is, like I said, this is my discipline, this is my space, but things like this is cutting edge stuff. This stuff is still in beta. This is in beta, but it's the future. Right? Say, oh, can you help us out? Of course I'm gonna help you out, because I'm gonna be the first person to learn about this stuff. So but that's where we're going, in terms of supply chain management, in terms of forecasting. So anything else from last week?
I have a question about the Zeotag. So this is automatically creating smaller videos from the larger video.
So yeah, so this is the large video.
Okay.
Right? This is a large video, but then it creates what we're referring to as Spark they had Sparks Notes back in the day. I'm dating myself. All y'all are kind of my age. Sparks Notes, Cliff Notes. We all were in high school using the Cliff Notes version, of our senior summer reading. So that's essentially what it's doing. So instead of me, so the whole premise is that we're all been in meetings, right? So we're sitting through a 2-hour meeting. It's absolutely meaningless, right? So I can get that recording and I could say, you know what? Let me just upload this thing and see, and just get a little summary of what they even talked about, right? So based on the algorithm, once this thing uploads, I can go through here and I can see the topics that were discussed in this hour-long discussion, right? So that's the chapters. So I can say, oh, law of government, what's that one all about? Click it, takes me straight to that section, right? Make sure this thing doesn't play. So it took me right to that section. So if I go here, say toilet facilities, what? Okay, boom. It clicks it, and then eventually, so it'll start playing. And then it'll actually, this is beta. So then it'll actually show you the actual text on that topic. All right. So for me, like I said, this is huge, because I'm actually taking all this information, because normally when I do research on sustainability, while I'm grading, I'm like letting these things play, and I'll get a nugget and I'll back it up, and then I'll take my notes, right? So in that one discussion, right? So this one was 1 hour, 16 minutes. So I actually listened to this one manually, I took 3 notes. I took 3 bullets out of an hour and 16 minutes. You'd be like, that's not worth that. To me, it's value. To me, that's gold. Because those 3 bullets take me down a different rabbit holes on sustainability that nobody's really talking about. Right? So now with these, so these were from, these just happened like a couple weeks ago, right? So I don't have 8 hours to sit and go through this SDG presentation, right? So then this thing can actually pop all this out of 8 hours. So that's a problem with this one. Again, we're in beta. So this one they had a problem with this. This one had a problem trying to upload for 8 hours. But for, let's see here, this one, hour 26 minutes. Like I said, I don't have an hour 26 minutes, so then I can just hop through here, see what they were talking about. Boom. Procurement law. That's interesting. So I can go there. I click that, takes me right to that section. Right. Like I said, for researchers like me, they're doing academic research. This is huge. This is huge. This is an absolute game changer. Right. So that's just one thing. But like I said, the whole point is that the technology and the tools and the data that we have, you're going to start mining that data with these tools, and this is going to start changing supply chains. It's going to start changing forecasts. It's going to start making your forecast more accurate and more real time. So demand sensing is referred to as near real time forecasting, right? So that's where this is going to come into play. And once we start working on this thing and we start building this out, this is going to be an absolute game changer in my opinion. Anything else?
Thank you for sharing.
All right, absolutely. So this week we are going to talk about product and process design. We're also going to go through demand forecasting. I'm going to try to get through this in 30 minutes or so, because I'm going to go through a PowerPoint because Ben wants one. All right. So with product and process design, based on, so you'll have the product design where you're going to go. So I always say, going back to the iPhone, right? Whenever Apple is rolling out a new version of the iPhone, they have to understand the process design or the product design of that iPhone. Okay. Once they understand the product design of the iPhone, then they have to understand the process design of the iPhone, right? So in order to understand that, you are going to have to create things, and these are one of my favorite. So this week you're going to talk about the steps of process design, process mapping, and layout planning. I say that process mapping is the beginning of whether you're doing a process design, a product design, or a facility layout. Okay. And what I mean by that is that whenever I am working with an organization, we do what we refer to as process maps. Can you see that? Probably not. All right. So we'll do what we refer to as process maps. So with process maps, so Ben, you heard of process maps? You're shaking your head. Okay. Yeah. So go ahead.
We call them swim lanes at my employer.
Yep. So yeah, swim lanes. There's swim lanes right here. Yep. So swim lanes are a part of the process map. So we'll have, you'll have the high level 0 process map. And then if there's going to be one process that's complicated, then we'll dig deeper. And then if it's still complicated, then we'll dig even deeper. Right? So you'll have these levels of process maps, right? So if I start at the top level, so this is a plan to produce. So there's where I'm doing a process map where I'm going to start with my planning. So I'm going to start with my planning, and then I'm going to go to my forecasting, and then I'm going to lay out all these processes include all of my departments. So like Ben said, I'm going to include all of my swim lanes equals departments, and I'm going to go through that entire process. So for example, given that we're talking about forecasting this week, everything gets kicked off with the sales department, right? So this is actually a process map that I created for a customer, right? So we're going to start out with the sales process, and then you'll have a decision that you have to make. So, and this was like a make to order. This was a make to order type business. So we're going to start. So everything starts out with sales. Customer calls in and says, "Oh, I need this certain thing." Okay. So then we're going to say, okay, customer has these requirements. Then we go to product engineering and say, customer has these requirements. Can we deliver this based on our information by May 31st? Right. So then they say, oh, well, no. Then you go maybe June 31st. So then you go back. That's a decision. So then you go back to the customer and say, will you take June 31st? Okay, we'll do that. So then it goes down to scheduling. We place the order, we release that order, and then we create the work order, and then everything happens, right? So essentially, again, like I said, a process map goes through every single process within what I refer to as a work stream. So with a work stream, like I said, so within this example, my work stream here was plan and produce. So all the steps it takes to plan the product to produce it, that's one work stream that I had on this customer. Then I have product development, all the steps it takes to produce a product, right? So then you'll have other work streams that goes from order to cash. So the step from the customer placing the order, then I'm going to check the pricing. Then I'm going to check the quantity. Then I'm going to send a customer order confirmation. I receive confirmation. Ooh, got some royalties. I received the confirmation. I received the confirmation from the customer. I send that to the warehouse. They pick it. They pack it. They ship it. We send an invoice. Customer pays the invoice. So all those steps I just laid out, all that gets laid out on this process map, right? So that's the process map. So the important piece, the value that these process maps provide is that it shows you map out the current state. So how do you do this today, right? So this is going to be the current state. So then we can take this. So Ben, do y'all do value stream mapping?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we use a different. Are you talking like earned value management?
No, value stream mapping.
No, I can't. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. So I'm going to describe it and I'm going to come back to you. Because you could throw everything in one process, right? You could call it a process map, but you could be putting the components of value stream maps within the process map, right? So within value stream mapping, so again, this is a high level current state process, right? That pretty much provides me a visual of the steps we take to complete the process, right? What value stream mapping will provide is that it's going to show me how long it takes to complete that step, right? Yes, is that a yes?
Yeah, it sounds like a schedule mapping diagram. When you do the schedule mapping where you have all the blocks and you write the days on it so you can see the time to complete.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Like the project management stuff. Yeah, I know about that. Okay.
Yeah. So you would put how long it takes to complete that task, but you also put in the percent complete and accurate each process takes, right? Now, in between this, you see a little arrow. If there's an arrow, I say, okay, how long does it take? How long is this process wait before this next process starts, right? So then you put in the time for this, you put in the time, the wait time, then you put in the time that's completed, you put in the complete and accurate, and then you do that for every single box within this process, okay? So whenever you do that and you have the times and you have the percent complete and accurate, now you're able to tell like that where my bottlenecks are, right? You're you're also able to easily tell what processes need some work, because 40% complete and accurate, what, is that a mistake? No, that's correct. So now you know what areas where we need to improve upon to increase the accuracy of a process. So that's the current state map. So we could say on this current state value stream map, these are areas for improvement. And then you do the same exact process for my future state map, where I say, okay, these are all the processes because we always did this for ERP implementations. So we can say, okay, this is a manual process now, but because we're going to implement an ERP application, we're going to reduce this process because the system's going to do it, right? It's going to be automated. So now that gets taken out, right? Now we can say, okay, this process, complete and accurate, is terrible. How are we going to revise that? So then that's where a level 2 map's going to come in, because we can say, okay, 1, this is a bottleneck, or 2, we need to improve the accuracy of this process. So now we dig deep into that process and we map out the actual micro steps that go into that process, right? So that's where these process maps come into play. And then the process maps can get transferred into value stream maps, right? So Ben, does that sound similar to what you all do?
Yeah, I actually was doing that all this week. I had to do forecasting for the next 2 years. And I had to, with the
so that's why you want the PowerPoints. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a visual learner. So, I mean, I read and I'll retain it. But when someone speaks it to me and I have the pictures, I'll see the visual and then I'll memorize it. I don't know, for me, it's all facets of learning. So reading gives me a chunk of it and I have it almost. The second I hear someone else read it back to me, it's memorized. And then I'm able to recall it whenever I need it.
Okay. Oh, so at that point, if that's the case, so here's another tool. See, this is completely off topic, but again, this might also be beneficial to you all. If you go to otter.ai, otter.ai is kind of like a voice, text to voice or voice to text tool. I love it, to be completely honest. So that's one tool where, like, if you have, so if I'm working, because I'm getting a third master's right now. So if I have assignments that are due, I will dump a peer-reviewed journal article into this text to voice, and I'll have that journal article speak back to me. Right. So again, I can have a peer-reviewed journal article and I can get 3 nuggets out of it. So instead of me sitting and reading it, I can just listen to it. Right. So otter.ai is a great tool for that. I also use, let's see here.
If anyone has a Mac, it also has a text to speech where it just like reads to you everything. So
yeah, so yeah, all those tools. So naturalreaders.com. I use that one often. That one's good. So I'm all about efficiency, and these are tools that I use. Okay, again, completely off topic, just giving you little nuggets. So any questions on process maps and process design and process maps? Any questions on that?
I have a question, Professor. We use, I work for a nonprofit organization, social services, and we use the process maps to develop policies and procedures, and also to indicate what is the process of initiating a service, for example. Do you recommend any specific program to develop those process maps? Because I do it manually.
Visio, without a doubt. And Visio is a Microsoft product. Without a doubt, that's the best one. That's the best. There's other ones out there, but I mean, everyone has most people, I'm not gonna say everyone, most people have Microsoft subscriptions. So I think even if you don't have Visio, I think it's a couple $100 or something like that. Ben, what do you all use?
We use Visio. Yeah, Visio, and then you can embed it inside a Microsoft Word document. So it depends on what the application is.
Mhm.
But sometimes I'll make Visio just a standalone, but usually it's embedded inside of Microsoft Word with a business instruction.
Oh, great.
There's another one called Draw.io. Draw.io was what I use in classes because it's free. You know, so whenever I do assignments in class, I'll have students use Draw.io. So that's one tool. If you want to use it for free and play around with it, you can use Draw.io, but Visio's the best one in my opinion.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So another discussion that we have within this week is layout planning. So you'll have a discussion in terms of, and I'll upload a video. I did like a short 7-minute video on facility layout and process maps. So I'll upload that in the discussion this week. So facility layout is another discussion that we often have. You know, if you ever heard of the discipline called industrial engineering, that's what they do. they assess manufacturing facilities and industrial, you know, organizations, and they try to find the most efficient layout for those facilities. Right? They do other things, but in the most part, the ones I've dealt with, that's what they do. You know, so facility layouts are very important. They kind of analyze the efficiencies of organizations. You know, you'll also see things referred to as work cells. That's where you'll start seeing things such as assembly lines and things like that. But that's what we're talking about when we talk about facility layout and layout planning. Other considerations that we have is, you know, when we talk about layout planning, you always want to find the most efficient path. And what I mean by that is, I say, think Amazon. During the pandemic, I can almost guarantee you that they had gloves, they had Lysol, they had toilet paper, either on the end caps as they're walking by these aisles that are just probably like a quarter mile long, or they probably had them close to the shipping department because everybody was buying them, right? So previously, pre-COVID, they probably had to walk down, you know, about halfway down the aisle to get a pile of toilet paper. Oh, no. Not because everyone was buying it. I took all that toilet paper out of the middle of that aisle and I put it right there off the end cap. That way, as I'm walking by to get the other stuff, whoop, keep it moving. Right? So that's what we talk about whenever we talk about layout planning. You know, we want to find the most efficient path. And another thing is, like whenever I was designing warehouses and distribution centers, I would also look at my inventory, and I would say my fast movers, just like toilet paper, I'm going to be able to walk through the aisle, and I'm going to find the most efficient slot to pick it from, right? And I'm continuously analyzing that using tools in the ERP system and say, okay, this thing was seasonality. So I could say, yeah, this thing was a slow mover in the summer, but now it's a fast mover. So now I'm going to take that from the overstock location and I'm going to put it in this primary pick in this picking area, because now winter time's coming, I'm going to be picking that item a lot, right? Where previously, if I left it there, I'm going to have to get a forklift every time somebody orders it. If it gets ordered 50 times a day, that's ridiculous. So that's what we talk about when we talk about layout planning, you know, and planning inventory and things like that. So you're also going to talk about, because I know that Dana talked about, you know, her service organization. So, you know, you have products and services. You know, when we talk about a service, oh God, it's been a long day. Service organization. You're talking about intangible products. You're talking about products you cannot touch, products you cannot consume. Okay. When you're talking about manufacturing organizations, you're talking about tangible products. You're talking about products you can touch, products you can consume, right? So when we talk about services, I always say, you know, it's labor. I always say that it's knowledge. You know, the nurses always explain that, you know, a hospital is a service organization. You know, they are selling expertise. Yes, they have inventory in there, but for the most part, they're selling expertise. They're selling care, right? So that's the difference. Any questions on service versus manufacturing operations? That's fairly straightforward. All right. So you also want to talked about the planning of the service capacity for uncertain demand. We did briefly talk about that, where we have something called aggregate planning. So aggregate planning is a method that will have 3 different strategies. So you'll have a level strategy, you'll have a chase strategy, you'll have a hybrid strategy. Okay. With a level strategy is somewhat certain demand. Okay. I'm going to go through all of them anyway. So that will be certain demand, where I'm going to look at my forecast of previous demand. I do a lot with nurses, so I always use hospitals. Okay. So if I need 5 nurses on my shift, if my demand tells me based on the number of occupied beds that I need 5 nurses on my shift every week, that's what I'm going to plan for the next few months. And I'm not deviating from those 5 nurses, right? That's my level strategy. With my chase strategy, this is where the uncertainty comes in. I always say that I'm chasing my demand, right? As my demand goes up, I have nurses on call to bring in, right? As demand goes down, as patients leave, then I'm asking for nurses who wants to go home early, right? So I'm chasing my demand with a chase strategy. With a hybrid strategy, I always say that I always start with my baseline and I adjust, right? So most organizations will operate on a hybrid strategy. Hospitals operate on a hybrid strategy. By law, students taught me this. By law, you have to have a minimum number of nurses and doctors at a facility, right? That's urgent care. Because one of my students some of my students did urgent care research, and they said that, like, if you do a 24-hour urgent care facility, you have to have a minimum number of nurses on staff, and a minimum number of doctors on staff. So I would hope the same holds true for a hospital. I would hope, right? So you have to have a baseline, and that baseline could be the minimum that you have to have on staff, and then you can adjust once demand goes up, right? So that's that hybrid strategy. So that's the planning of service capacity for uncertain demand. Again, you have the aggregate planning where you have those 3 strategies. So for the fundamentals of demand and forecasting, we are going to go to a PowerPoint. Any questions on what we discussed?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so let me see if it's the right one. Yeah, I don't have that much to get through. I'm not going to go through all these slides, I don't think. I'm afraid to hit the presentation. Oh man, this thing might freeze on me. All right, so this is a huge file. You can see that's PowerPoint, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So whenever we're talking about forecasting, we're going to talk about lean later. But when we talk about forecasting, we're talking about a push planning model. Okay. Now a push planning model is you are being proactive in planning. Okay. Although we're going to talk about it later, a pull planning model is where you're going to start hearing things such as lean, right? Where you're being reactive. You're trusting the system to tell you when you need to order product, right? With this forecasting model, to introduce the two, with the push planning model, if it's flu season, and I look at how many cases of flu vaccines we used last year for a hospital, I say we used 10 cases. So I'm going to say this year, I'm going to say, all right, the analysts are saying that we have the same, it's going to be a mild flu season like last year. So I'm going to order 10 cases and order a case as a buffer, a safety stock, right? So now I order 10 cases for the hospital. That could be my push planning model. I'm forecasting. I'm being proactive in what I need. I'm looking at my crystal ball. I'm looking at what I need, right? So flu season goes by, and it's a super mild season. We use 2 cases in all flu season, hypothetically, right? So now, because I can't use that flu vaccine next year, I have to write it off or throw it away, right? So now I'm writing off 9 cases by using the push planning model, okay? Now, with a pull planning model, with a lean just-in-time model, you've heard just-in-time? Anyone? Yeah. So with a just-in-time model, I'm being reactive. I am trusting the system to tell me, to give me a signal of when I need to purchase these flu vaccines, right? So now with a lean pool planning just-in-time model, right? They're all in that same bucket. If I use a 2-bin system, so now a 2-bin system in this case, in this scenario, would be I would order 2 cases of flu vaccine. Once I start using up that first case, once that first case is used up, I should say, that's my signal or my trigger that I need to order a replenishment case, another case, right? So now, as I use up that second case, that third case shows up just in time, just when I need it, right? And that is a continuous iterative approach. Every time I use up a box, that's all right. Thank you. Every time I use that box. How are you in the waiting room when you're typing? What the?
I'm a super user.
That's crazy. That's weird. Anyway, so I'm still trying to figure out how you do that. Oh, you got 2 users. Okay, got you. You messing with me. So with a just-in-time approach, the lean just-in-time approach, you are depending upon that trigger of that empty box to tell you when it's time to reorder product. Okay. Now, like I said previously, with a push planning model, we were off 9 cases. With a pull planning model, with a pull planning just-in-time model, worst case, we're writing off like a case and a half. Worst case, right? Sounds amazing, right? But wait, there's no one size fit. Dude, you're freaking me out. It's 11 o'clock. You can't be freaking me out like that, Ben. The 2 sides. But there's no one size fits all approach. So based on your business model, you're either going to go this pull planning route, this push planning route, or you could also do a hybrid route. Perfect example, Walmart. There is no possible way that Walmart could use a pull planning model for Black Friday. So let's just say that Walmart orders 20 TVs per store. Okay, they run out. They say, okay, Samsung, that's my trigger. I need to order some more. Samsung's gonna be like, more what? So you're not going to be able, there's no one size fits all approach. There's going to be situations where you have to use a push planning model. Like Walmart has to use a push planning model for Black Friday, right? So there's also a hybrid approach. And this is one approach that I just learned like last summer, where you're going to have, so like I'm down in the DC area. So I go to a lot of Yankees games whenever I go to a lot of Orioles. I go to a lot of Yankees games at Kingdom Yards in Baltimore. Make sure I put that correctly. Okay. So because Anheuser-Busch has a distribution center in Baltimore, they actually have a pretty clever just-in-time model where they'll have their beer stocked in the stadium. They do the same thing for the Ravens. They'll have the beer stocked in the stadium. So whenever people within the stadium see that trigger, they'll call the trucks in the walkie-talkie to take out to replenish the beer, right? And as they're doing this throughout the game, once the truck is empty, that truck leaves, they call a distribution center, another truck pulls right in. Me, that's brilliant, right? Because even if they don't sell the beer, they take those cases out of the stadium after the game, put them right back on their truck, and put them right back in the stock. That's brilliant. And it's simple, right? That's like duh, right? But many people don't do that. But then the Orioles and the Ravens also have a hybrid model because they couldn't do that for hot dogs. They couldn't do that for hot dog buns. They couldn't do that for hamburger buns. They couldn't do that for hamburgers, right? They have to forecast that stuff. So at a game, they're using a hybrid model. Does that make sense? All right. So on this screen here, this is your traditional forecasting example where you're going to have to dictate what your inventory value is. But what this PowerPoint's telling you, I use this PowerPoint for like a good 15 years. Forecasting doesn't change. So this is telling you the higher the service level, one, the higher the customer satisfaction, but two, as you see in the simulation, the more it's going to cost me, right? Because the more inventory you carry, the higher your inventory you have in your books, right? So those are the decisions that you have to make within an organization, and that's what this slide is telling you. And then this next one is exactly what we talked about when we're talking about the bullwhip effect in the beer game, right? So the more accurate your forecast, the less your demand variance. So if you have like toilet paper, the demand variance on toilet paper pre-COVID was very small. You could almost predict how much toilet paper you needed to order every single week, right? But then COVID knocked it out of whack for a good 6 months, 8 months. Now, if you were to look at the demand variance and as it pertains to the forecast for toilet paper now, it's kind of leveled out, back out, right? People stop hoarding. they still have toilet paper stores, but they're not hoarding anymore and loading up on it. But that's where the lower the demand variance, the lower the safety stock levels you have to hold, right? So the more amplified that demand variance is going to be, the higher the safety stock you have to carry, because you have to compensate for those swings in demand, right? So That's another thing that you have to talk about. We're going to talk about ABCI because it says this one represents an A item. We're going to talk about ABC items and things like that. Also, you're going to have considerations in terms of seasonality. I did consulting for a food distributor in New Jersey. Shoot, it's going on 15 years now. I'm getting old. So yeah, about 15 years ago, I worked for a food distributor, and they had seasonality like crazy. But because you could predict that seasonality, we built that into our forecast, right? So we had seasonality calculations where, although we could use like a 3-month moving average, we'll talk about that. Although we use a 3-month moving average, we could also put in a seasonality factor, and it automatically bumped up that forecast, right? Now there's seasonality. There are things such as alpha factors. If you're doing exponential smoothing, exponential smoothing is another forecast method that we use, where the higher the alpha factor, the quicker your forecast is going to adjust to your demand, right? So based on the situation, based on your item, you're going to have a high alpha factor, because you could say, well, I only want to have a high alpha factor. No, not necessarily, because I could have outliers. So if I have like a C item that like got rocked in like a particular month, now that C item that I really don't sell that much is going to adjust very quickly and increase my forecast. And now I'm buying product because it's an outlier that I really don't need. So that's why the alpha factors are very important. And alpha factors were used. You see some high alpha factors during the pandemic. That's for sure. That's for sure. But also in the pandemic, we were forecasting and trying to order product, but we couldn't get it. So I actually did a conference presentation for this organization. They developed purchasing solutions, and I was talking about artificial intelligence and purchasing, and one individual reached out to me after the conference and said, why are you talking about artificial intelligence whenever forecasting is no good in this given point in time? It's like, how are you going to be able to use artificial intelligence? How are you going to be able to get all this historical data to assist in demand for the pandemic? I said, that's a valid point. I said, that's where demand sensing is going to come in. And then I went on the conversation of demand sensing, right? So you have all these tools, you have all these considerations that have to be made whenever you're talking about forecasting and inventory management. And like I said, I did a lot of work. I came in the industry working with distributors. So I was trying to create the correct forecasting models for companies that were carrying 50,000 items. Right. And for some industries, 50,000 is low. So, and like you're talking about like carrying inventory for small screws. They're like fast movers that we can't stock out of because we're supplying these huge, we're supplying Ford and GM with these screws. So there's no way we can stock out. Right. All of it that cost 1,000th of a cent, but we can't stock out of them. Right. All the way to $100,000 machine that they sell one of a year, right? So that's a big swing now, isn't it? So because of that, because you have this $100,000 machine and you have this one screw that costs 1,000th of a cent, you have to be able to segment these items in your inventory. Right. So now you have these ABC classifications, right? I'm pretty sure you've heard of ABC classification, the 80-20 rule, things like that, right? 20% of my inventory make up 80% of my revenue. you know, that whole thing where we would create ABC classifications, and we would put a subset of items in my A category, a subset in my B, a subset in my C. Okay. Now we would use that, one, to identify what items are most important that we need to count from an inventory level. And two, we need to identify where we're going to locate those items from a picking perspective. So my A items, we want to sometimes put behind lock and key. Right? I work for a pharmaceutical company. Every single A item for that pharma distributor was behind lock and key. Right? So there's a number of reasons why you would use ABC classification, but you also have a different consideration in terms of movability. So how quickly did this item move? Like for that one organization, that $100,000 machine, that was the only A item in the whole entire organization. We made adjustments so we can get more items in A, because other than that, it was meaningless. So, but you know, from an 80-20 rule perspective, that was the only A, right? So, although that's the most valuable item in the inventory, it's also the slowest mover in the organization, right? So that was a terrible example, but like for a pharmaceutical company, you had highly valuable items that also were fast movers, right? So now you have to create a matrix, if you will, to say, what's my highly valued items, and combine it with which items move quickly. And there are a number of decisions that come out of which items are within that matrix. And so again, ABC classification, you would say, you know, you have to determine what percentage of items make up my A's, what percentage of items make up my B's, what percentage of items make up my C's, what percentage of items make up my D's, right? But then from a movability perspective, that's where you would also say, okay, my class A movers are this many, based on my organization, this many quantity, this much quantity is going to be my A's. This much, or this many lines on an order make up my A's. So for example, screws, if I put 100,000 screws, that's always going to be my fast mover. But if I say, okay, every single time these screws were put on the line, on an order line, that's what dictates a fast mover, right? So you'll have to make a determination, and you say, oh, what does that have to do with forecasting? This is what it has to do with forecasting. So that's where, so instead of, because there is no possible way you can operate at a 98% service level for every single part within your item, within your inventory, right? So I'm going to say my highly valuable items that are fast movers, I do not want to stock out of these things. That's where my money comes from. So I'm going to make sure that I have a 98% service level on those parts, right? And then from there, then that's when I start just trying to taper off, right? So I have, oh yeah, you're a fast mover, but you're a B. Okay, you get 95%. I still want to keep you in inventory, but I'm not going to fork out that much more money to keep you in inventory. And then my C's, you're still a fast mover, I only keep you at 92%. So whenever you create that matrix, from a volume value perspective and an inventory control perspective, that's going to be the output. Okay. So let me go here. All right. So also within, from an inventory controls perspective, so this is a traditional reorder point model. So with the reorder point model, you are going to continue. So you have your economic order quantity up here at the top. So based on calculations, based on formulas that you'll see in the book, you're going to find the most economic quantity that you need to purchase up to, right? So once you purchase up to that quantity, if you're using a traditional forecasting model, you're going to start to decrement your inventory. So this is customer demand. So I'm going to be decrementing. So then boom, the system's going to say, hey, it's time for you to order this product. So you order it. Once you order it, based on the lead time from that supplier. So here's where everybody got caught with the Suez Canal, and here's where everybody got caught in the pandemic. Because this is a traditional model. So now everyone had their system set up to decrement and alert them of, based on history, of when it was time to order. So once they ordered that, and then once you've ordered it based on your lead time, you're still going to decrement. And then by the time you get down to zero, you're gonna pop back up to the full inventory level. Right? So here's what happened during the pandemic. All right, full inventory level. Decrement. Pandemic hits. Order. Order. Decrement. Okay, I'm supposed to be getting it now. Decrement. Pass for safety stock. Decrement, all the way down to the bottom. Right? So that's what happened with the pandemic. So that's where all these analysts who have no clue about supply chain management, they say, oh, the system's broken. No, it's not. That's how the system has always been created. There's no possible way I could have a safety stock level to counter or predict what happened. Right? So again, that's your traditional reorder point model. And then all right, so when we go to forecasting, this looks absolute mess. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I can present this, because you aren't gonna be able to read this. I might have another one. Yeah, I do. All right. No, yeah. There we go. All right, so as I said, you have different forecasting methods. They're almost like 20 different forecasting methods. But from my experience, these are the three that most people use, even billion-dollar companies, right? So you have what we refer to as exponential smoothing. So as I said before, exponential smoothing takes the alpha factor into account, where it's going to say the higher the alpha factor, as I said before, the higher the alpha factor, I am out of Red Bull. The higher the alpha factor, the quicker that demand, that forecast is going to adjust to the previous demand, right? So again, if I had a high alpha factor during the pandemic for toilet paper, my forecast is going to adjust very quickly to the spike in toilet paper. If I had a low alpha factor, it's going to take time for that forecast to actually catch up to the true demand, right? So again, there's a time and a place and products for each one of those methods, okay? You also have a moving average, where you can take 3-month moving average, 5-month moving average based on your product line. Going back to that food manufacturer, because we had products that had short shelf life, we had to use weekly buckets. So we use a 3-week moving average, right? Because their products was moved that quickly. So those are that's moving averages. Moving average is the most common, because that can be easily set up in Microsoft Excel. So because even with people moving to ERP applications, because they use the 3-month moving average within Excel, they normally just carry over that approach to their applications. Nothing wrong with it. Forecast copy. So forecast copy, I use a lot. So for new product introductions, forecast copy is used a lot for a similar item, because with a brand new product that doesn't exist, where's that demand going to come from, right? The demand doesn't exist. So I'm going to take a like item, and I'm going to use forecast copy to copy the demand from a previous item and copy it over to this new product. and adjust it by a certain percentage. All right. So that's one thing. Another thing forecast copy is used on is like highly seasonal products. So heart-shaped chocolate. I'm using forecast copy for that, because that demand is going to increase probably, last week of December, first couple and all the way through January, first couple weeks of February. It's gonna fall off a cliff and bottom out, right? So forecast copy is used for highly seasonal products. Forecast copy is also used for highly customizable products, right? So some people say, well, why would you even forecast a customizable product? There's going to be some products where you would have to forecast, because you have to forecast the materials that go into that customizable product, right? So Tesla Roadster, highly customizable. Tesla's not going to have a $200,000 Roadster sitting on the floor, right? Yes, they manufacture, yes, they mass produce Model 3s and Model S's now, but not a Roadster, right? So because they have no clue when that product's whenever that order is gonna come in, right? They have to kind of look at the history somewhat to actually still get the raw materials in. Although they might not use them for a very long time, they still going to have to somewhat forecast in some way what that demand is going to be from a material perspective. Okay. Any questions on that? Again, no, there's the Holt Winters model. There's double exponential smoothing. There's triple exponential smoothing. I've been in this game. I've been in here for 20 years. I've seen double exponential smoothing used like twice, and it was an epic fail. Don't do it. but they're out there. Mark, do you have something?
Yeah, I guess about the alpha. Is that calculated somehow, or is it just kind of, I guess, where does that come from? I didn't really catch that in the reading.
So the alpha factor is a factor that you would actually input.
Right.
It's a factor you would actually input. You can actually input it within this exponential smoothing formula. And another thing I forgot to mention is that a number of these tools have something we refer to as simulations. Similar to the simulation you did in week 1, they have simulations for the real world where you would use real demand history, and you have a simulation tool within your ERP application, and you would choose exponential smoothing. Low alpha, what's the output? High alpha, what's the output? It would give you all the costing for it. Okay, let's take the same exact item, 3-month moving average. Okay, let's see what the costing is. Let's see what the forecast error is. So you have all those tools similar to exactly what you did in week 1 to forecast your items. That's your question?
Yeah, they're just kind of whatever you think fits the situation. It's not like
it's whatever fits your situation. And so for the alpha factor, there is no real guidance, but like I said, you have to kind of have to look at the simulation to see how quickly you want that product to adjust to the current demand. That make sense? Yeah. So like I said,
actually, I got something I can add on to that. So I have to work with adjusting tables and A tables several times with the products that I help develop. Sometimes you'll have an alpha factor will be the region of the planet you're in. Because if you're in a air-conditioned environment, your computer system will last much longer than if you're in an ocean and saltwater environment, or if you're in a desert. So depending on the region of the planet you're in, sometimes you'll put an alpha factor to increase the demand and the consumption rate of your supplies. So that could be another example of an alpha that would come into it. I don't know if that's similar.
Oh, keep going. Anything else? You made me think of something.
No, I mean, other than that, when I saw the triggers, I thought of my grandfather was a quartermaster for the Army.
Mhm.
And he used to put the purchase order. So when you were pulling off the inventory and you got down to like the third box from the bottom, the purchase order was right there so that the soldier knew to order more products. So that way, when they did get to the last box on the bottom, the new shipment would get in.
Right.
That was before ERP systems automatically did it. So I was cracking up when I saw those the trigger comments. It made me think of my grandfather when he explained that system he set up.
Yeah. And it's so simple, right? Didn't cost them a dime. Didn't cost them a dime. Saved them all kinds of money. Saved them all kinds of money. But to Ben's point, there's another consideration that I didn't want to mention it because I didn't want to complicate things, but you brought it up, so I'm going to say it. But there's certain so you can take, so let's just say that you have a product. That product is going to use exponential smoothing. But to Ben's point, I could segment out that customer base and split them up in customer groups, right? Where I can say, I think is there one? I don't think there's a slide for that. No, there's not a slide for that. So I use exponential smoothing for this product, for laptops, for example, right? I think that's what you use. But I have laptops, then I have customer group. I have customer group, normal group that uses 0.5, for example, right? Then I have marine, 0.8, desert, 0.7. So all those the same exact item, although I'm using exponential smoothing. So in this system, it was called wildcards. So I could say, I could use this wildcard, or I could use a segment, if you will, for more better understanding. I can use a segment, and that segment is going to drive what alpha factor gets used. So I'm going to say, okay, so for this setup, I think there's a screenshot. This is an old system, but again, this stuff is good. So all right, here we go. That's exactly what it is. There it is, right here. So I had wildcards. So if I had key value, so let's say my key value was my segment, was my customer group. So I could say general customer group. I could say ocean or marine. I could say desert. So I could say, although I'm using exponential smoothing, because my key value that's linked to that customer record, because this key value is linked to that customer record is general, desert, or marine, set that alpha value, pull alpha value 0.5, pull alpha value 0.7, pull alpha value 0.8. And that's how it's done. That makes sense? Like I said, I didn't want to lose you on that one. But to Ben, in Ben's example, that's exactly what you would do. All right. So this forecasting thing can get, I've been on site for like months trying to teach people this forecasting. Months. Especially in distribution, because you can't screw this up in distribution. Right. So yeah, you can slice and dice and dissect this so much. It's crazy. So much is crazy. But again, I mean, this system, I was doing this in 2006, so I've had many more sophisticated applications that I've used, but I mean, this slide deck kind of delivers, kind of brings home the point because it lays it out so good and kind of brings it down to ground zero. That's why I keep using it. Like I said, I've been using this PowerPoint for forever. Right. So replenishment control, again, we're going back to that traditional sawtooth. We're going to decrement. Once you hit that river point, you're going to go back up, and then you have all of these considerations that you have to think about in terms of the ordering cost. You have to say, how much stock interest am I going to have? You're going to say, what's going to be my inventory holding cost? You're going to have to say, what's my total landed cost? That's the biggest thing that people don't consider whenever considering costing for inventory, your total landed cost, right? So the total landed cost is that, yes, we have a purchase price that people normally take. The purchase price is the price that people normally take to get their item costing, their manufacturing cost. but you have the purchase price, you have your duty, you have your surcharges, you have all these hidden fees that go into purchasing these items. You have your container freight cost. And I would say that 80% of the customers that I dealt with in these ERP applications never consider all those costs. So if you had the food distributor, they would import a ton of cheese from overseas. And before I got there, they had no clue what their landed cost was, right? So for a container, for one container of cheese, that landed cost would be like $3,000, right? So now that $3,000 was just like, they just wrote off all of these costs, $3,000 pop. They're bringing seven or eight containers a week. None of that's tracked. They just write the check. None of it's tracked in terms of they pay the bills. I'm saying none of it's tracked in terms of putting that cost back into the product for your full product costing is what I'm referring to. Right. So that's other considerations that have to be considered. I know we're going long. There's not that much more to discuss. Anything else in terms of forecasting? Because I could go on for like hours on this. Anything else on forecasting you want me to cover, man?
No, I'm good. Thank you. I noticed the time in your corner of your screen. It's pretty late. I'm good.
Yes, sir. And I'm not done yet. I gotta finish a chapter of a book tonight before I go to sleep. I'm not looking forward to that. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, thank you.
All right. Were you gonna say something, Ben?
No.
You sure?
I'm good. Thank you, Professor.
All right. Anything else before we sign off?
I have a question, Professor.
Yes.
I know in the other class, we had a sheet that had all the calculations on there. Are we going to be able to use that for our final? Like something like that with all the calculations that we have?
Yes, because this class doesn't have a proctored exam. I don't think you're gonna need it though.
Okay.
I'll have to double check. I don't think you're gonna need it, but yeah, this class isn't proctored, so it'll be good.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any way you could move the quizzes to Wednesday?
Excuse me?
Is there any way you can move the quizzes to Wednesday? It's due tonight, right?
No, I moved it yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
Double check.
Thursday.
When's the last time you checked it?
Oh,
It's
today.
moved already.
Yeah,
I think it's moved to
Yeah, I
Thursday.
moved it to Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mine says April 20. Okay.
It does?
Good. Yeah, it's all right.
Wait. All right. I just want to double check while I'm in here.
Professor,
Yes.
for the assignments number 2 for the module number 2, chapter 3, 4, and 8, I was doing my homework and my internet got disconnected and I noticed that it graded me right away. So I never finished. I think it was in the first question when it got disconnected, I had 12 points out of 40. There's
Yeah.
any way I can, take that?
Home at. So what is a quiz?
No, not the quiz. This is the homework for chapter 3, 4, and 8. It's just the homework.
All right, home at. Let me see here.
No, the
Did you
quiz I
take?
haven't tried, to be honest.
All right, I just cleared it out. See if that works. See what you see on your end. 'Cause I just cleared out that grade.
Mhm. Let me get into it.
Norma, it won't just let you try again because
I
Mine
can
kind of
try.
froze for one of the questions, and then once it kind of, I don't know if it disconnected or not, though it might have been different. I actually took a screenshot because I was gonna send it too in case it didn't work. But it might let you try again because I think it says that we have like 2 attempts.
But I think there is no time limit there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so we'll try. I just don't wanna, because I got in my emails, I got the, like, you know, I already got my homework results for module
Oh,
2.
that's weird.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, Professor, the chapter 125 homework and the simulation score didn't get transferred to the grade.
I have, they're looking at it now.
Oh,
They
okay.
sent me an email yesterday.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they sent me an email yesterday.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing the quizzes now, and then so Norma, your grade's good.
Well, right now, so far, the quiz I'm gonna take it tonight, but the module 2 homework, let me double check. Is it my lab?
Oh, Mark, try check your thing now. I didn't switch to other class. Check the due date now for yours.
Well, I'm gonna try later today, tonight, I mean. I think I can continue with it.
Okay, Mark, did you? Okay,
Thank you, Professor.
good. All right. Oh yeah. Anybody
good.
else?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Yeah. Y'all have a good night. I'm trying to find something to eat. It's the first opportunity I've had to eat. So y'all have a good night. I'm about to get my belly full.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
See
you,
you.
everybody.
All right. Bye bye.
Have a good night.
Good night.